happy you've joined us for the study and discussions on the Emerald Tablets by Billy Carson and other authors. Parasha, an ancient text interpreter and tablet reader, will be hosting this weekly event. She will be joined by associate speakers from the LCFHD each session, and lines are open for discussion. So join us Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time as we complete the book, and it will be on our YouTube channel, Learning Center for Human Development. And check out our blog at emeraldtabletstudies.com. We will schedule to have anyone that has further studies to join us on the session and share your knowledge. Our host, Parasha, is traveling doing summer ceremonies with natives of North America, and today's session will be hosted by Mike Delar. Mike Delar is the chairman of the Civil Engineering Department at Dawson College in Montreal, Canada, and has studied and traveled with Grandmother Parasha for over 30 years. He considers himself a scientist, but one who readily admits that conventional science has barely scratched the surface of knowledge. He's passionate about learning the history of our ancestors and the wisdoms they possess. Here is Mike Delar.
Hi, thanks very much, Kisiwe. I appreciate that. I'm trying, very good. I'm not sure if you're going to turn my video on or if I have to. There we go. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. Grandmother asked me to step in and just kind of lead the discussions this evening. What she asked me to share with you and asked us to spend some time this evening talking about is going back to the emergence theory, which is on page 61 in your book, in the book that we're studying. And just to kind of get things kicked off, what she would like us to do is each of us, when we read this and we get a little bit of an understanding of what emergence theory is all about, had most probably some kind of a reaction to some parts of it or another. And so what she'd like us to do is share how we specifically interacted with it, what it was, what is it about the theory that rings especially through to us, each one of us. And so just to get things started off, I thought maybe we'd just go over a little bit about what he says there, so we can bring back up into kind of front mind what emergence theory is all about. And remembering very quickly, as a review, the emergence theory, the whole idea of emergence theory is that it starts off on the basis that all reality is based on and made out of information. It consists of information. And that information has to be acted on by a user. Now, he defines information as symbols, which is kind of interesting because while we're reading this book, we're also reading and studying symbols with Grandmother through numerology. And any of you who've been around Grandmother for any time know that she is very big on sacred symbols and has spent a lot of time teaching us a little bit about sacred symbols and interpreting tablets and symbols for us in the past. So it's very easy for me when I hear this, information is symbols. It's like, yeah, that's the way it's been since forever, I guess. And then it goes on to say that in order for those symbols to have meaning and to actually be communication, well, it takes a user or someone as a witness in order to say what that meaning is. And so emergence theory brings in the quantum or the relativity, special relativity aspect of we need an observer. We need consciousness in order for this reality to take place. And so just basically on that as a starting point, is there anybody who would like to specifically have had a sharing or a feeling about what this means to you, or what parts of the emergence theory mean to you? If you do, stick your hand up and somebody will let me know that you've got a perspective that you'd like to share, or a thought that you'd like to share, something that just rang through to you. So put your hand up. Right, very good. The other thing is that what we're starting to understand also is that scientists, as they get deeper and deeper into this quantum theory and the theory of relativity and try to mesh these two together, and that's what basically the emergence theory is doing, they're realizing that our reality is actually the expression of a much higher dimension, or a much higher reality, and that we are really just a projection. And they talk about that with the quasi crystals, and some of you may have something to think about that. Geraldine, I think, had something you'd like to share. Geraldine, you want to go ahead? I think you need to be unmuted.
Great. Yes. The sharing is, and I actually shared this with GMP as well. There was a moment, like I really see the Emerald tablets as information that's giving to us seeds that we then need to plant and cultivate. And our harvesting the abundance depends on how we use this information. It is very much in alignment that modern science is catching up with some of the ancient wisdom. But the key thing from the emergence theory was waking up from a dream, in that middle state of waking up and seeing there's a part, for those of you who've watched that link that was recommended in the Emerald Tablets book, the little video that Mike introduced us to the other week as well. There's a scene in the early bit where it says, see, there's a crystal, and it shows this pattern stretching out and stretching out. And I woke up with one of those little shock realizations of, irrespective of how I am changing my life and getting more organized, or mostly about work, delegating more work, I appear to be constantly busy. And the realization was, it was just, you have set up a particular crystalline structure. And when I saw it racing out like it did in that video, I realized, if I've put it so out there, of course that's what it's bringing back to me, irrespective of how organized, irrespective of how disciplined, irrespective of how many people to delegate to. That is the crystal that I am creating. Therefore, that is the frequency. And we've always been told this. What you focus on is what you get. What you put out is what you bring in. But having the emergence theory allowed me to see it as a crystal, which meant to make it different. You can't make a crystal a little bit different. You can't just bend this piece. As they said, a crystal is a repeat pattern. And we've been told about repeat patterns as well. So the Emerald Tablets is really giving us that viewpoint so we can see in our own selves, what is the crystal that I have set up? What am I emanating out? And that vision then I was able to go, okay. And again, from the teachings, it's about going back to the void. I'm not going to create a new crystal by sticking a different shape onto that which is already there. To create a new crystal, you have to remove everything, go back to the void, and then create from that point. So it's an interesting place now. Seeing the comfortableness is to go to the normal crystal. The excuse is to say, well, just one more report after this one, after this one. But the reality of it is to change the crystal, it has to be back to zero, to void, to create. We don't create a new crystal by sticking stuff on the edge of our existing one. So that's what I wanted to share.
Very good. Thank you so much. I believe Marianne Love has her hand up, or is next.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think the biggest thing I got out of this was this awareness that it's from the 8th dimension that we experience what we experience here, in as much as how I understood it is what we experience is almost the shadow reflection of the crystal, the pattern that's in the 8th dimension, and that we can determine how it manifest here, because it's all symbols, it's all language, and it's up to us to determine what that language is for us. And there's only a certain, I guess, how I understood, and you might be able to clarify this more, Mike, for me, but there's a certain array a certain limitation on the arrangements that can be in third dimension of the symbols, and we have a choice in how it's arranged. And so it invited me really to open up to what is eighth dimension. And I think, as grandmother said, you can't explain it. Like, you have to really experience it and open yourself up, firstly, to the fact there is more than third dimension, you know, which might be not news for our group necessarily, but news for many. And that, you know, this is something we could experience if we just simply invited the questioning, the exploration, the meditation, and explore what does this mean for us personally if we can manifest in our life, because everything's simply a reflection of the patterning occurring in the eighth dimension, and we're almost seeing the shadow of it here, the reflection of it here. So it's been powerful for me. I really love the fact that it's drawing in a lot of the things we've learnt before from quantum physics and other theories. It's not making any of them necessarily wrong. It's just refining and incorporating many of them to become something we could use.
Very cool. Maybe I can give you a visual that'll help you understand what they mean when they say things can only go a certain way. If you remember in the movie, if you saw the movie, they talk about the little shapes and how those shapes can only fit a certain way together. Think of them almost like little Legos. Legos have a certain size and shape, and they, you know, they might go this way or they might go this way, but there's only a certain number of ways they actually fit together, because that's the way it fills up the space. It'd be the same thing with these when they talk about the minute little pieces that are at what they call the Planck length, which is super, super small, that those little pieces can only fit together one way, just the same way your Legos could only fit together a couple of ways. So there's a couple of possibilities each time, but they only fit together a certain way. So that's kind of a visual, maybe, if that helps. Okay, Mary Smith had something you wanted to share? Hi, Mary.
Hi. Yeah. Hang on.
We're getting a little feedback from somebody there, Mary. We need to unmute Mary so she can talk, I think.
There we go. Okay, we have it now. So one of the things, I mean, there are a number of things. Every time that I listen to that awesome video and watched a few others, I get a lot more information because I'm getting a little bit accustomed to the idea, and I keep applying a little piece of information each time. And I came across some more theories that they integrate with emergence theory. And one of the most important things for me that helps me understand is every time, like in that video or we read the book, the term crystal is used, I think about the crystals that I wear or the crystal glassware, and that's not crystal at all. I have to keep remembering what they showed in the two-dimensional and the three-dimensional understanding that the crystal, when they're talking about crystalline, they're actually talking about a field. And what we've always studied with fields and quantum fields, it's unlimited information. So when I kept listening and I kept watching more videos and looking up more theories, it comes down to, at the subatomic sub levels, all information is basically the same. Just like we've heard in so many different ways, and we understand in reading the Emerald Tablet, there is really no separation. It all has to do with how we decide to understand, to react to the information that's out there, because every single piece of information that ever has or ever will be is there at our access the whole time. So it really helps me to understand that he's talking about the field. So that's part of what I'm looking for.
Very good, thank you.
And
you wanted to share something?
Yes, I do. So what I looked at when I was, after I read the material and I watched the videos a few times.
Wait.
Can you hear me?
You sound like you're talking from the bottom of a well, Robbie.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, okay, I see.
Okay, how about this? Does that sound better?
We can understand you, yes.
Okay. Okay, good. So after reading the material and watching the videos a few times, I wanted to know, so here's all this science stuff. What does it mean for me in my life? How am I going to use this? So here's kind of the basics of what I understand. That the third dimension is a projection of the eighth dimension, but depending on how the light is filtered, the original picture that exists in the eighth dimension can be altered or changed. So it means that in this third dimensional experience I'm having in my body, I can make choices and decisions that can distort what my true nature is that exists in the eighth dimension. And it means that I have the option to choose all kinds of harmful things, harmful to myself, harmful to others, things like anger, destruction, greed, judgment, violence, and so on, things like that. And those are kind of normal things that happen in this body experience. So it's not like there's something wrong with them, it's just that it belongs to this eighth dimensional body experience. Like every nasty human thing that can possibly happen, it's contained in this third dimension. So then if I want to do something new and different that's not strictly a third dimensional body physical response, I have to remind myself that yes, this is a third dimensional experience and those things happen here, and I just have to acknowledge that it's true. But then I have to remind myself of who I really am and allow those attributes to be what prevails. So then I ask myself, so who am I really? What are those attributes? So there are some tools that I've been using. I'm sure that some of you are already familiar with these, and there's many tools that we can use to figure out who we are. For example, your numbers, your numerology. And I've been studying my numerology in a book called Numerology and the Divine Triangle by Faith Javan and Dusty Bunker. I'm sure many of you on this call have heard of it. I've also studied my birth glyph in a book called The Mayan Oracle by Ariel Spilsbury and Michael Breiner. I also did recently the Myers-Briggs test. I went to 16personalities.com, and those are just 3 examples of tools that I've used, and amazingly, there were a lot of points that were very similar across all 3 tools that I used. So what I did is I took the information that I got from each of these, 3 different places, and I made a list of attributes about myself. So here's an example that I came up with. When I'm feeling a judgmental moment coming on, I can tell myself, yes, I hear myself being judgmental about that person, but who I really am is, according to my attributes that resonate with me, as a matter of fact, I feel them. Who I really am is a diplomat. My goal is a harmonious win-win outcome for everyone. And I bring out the best in people. So what happens then is I go through a complete and total change in my body chemistry. So I have a different electromagnetic signature, and that attracts a different kind of experience. Now, I'm going to give you another example of something that actually happen. One of the attributes that has shown up quite a bit across the board for me is having extreme financial wealth. Now, this matters to me because just about every dream I dream of for an extraordinary, fantastic life requires a lot of money. So what happened is, just by taking the time to make a list of attributes, I noticed something immediate that happened. There was a shift that took place in my business. Clients that have been sitting on the fence for months and months and even years suddenly started popping out of the woodwork saying they were ready to start. I mean, like 5 people within the first few days. So I have learned, I've experienced firsthand that doing the inner work, meaning getting past my habitual responses that are associated with this third dimensional body experience, and focusing on my true noble attributes that are contained in that 8th dimension, even just doing that a little bit is starting to bring about those changes that I desire in my life. And that's what I wanted to share.
Robbie, I love you. I love you. You always dive in so deep and do everything with such, just so much enthusiasm. You're like somebody said one time, you're like enthusiasm on fire. So I really appreciate that sharing. Obviously, you spent some time putting that together and putting your thoughts together, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. Nikki Siwe, I think, had something she wanted to share.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can hear you fine.
Okay. One of the things that I went to in looking at the video, when you see the crystal that the girl is holding, the actual shape that's in the 8th dimension, that lattice, 3D lattice, and the thing that is fixed is the sun, which is I see as the viewpoint or intent. And by shining it through the intent through that crystal, you're creating a different effect on the dirt. So you're having a different experience in 3rd dimension. So to me, I mean, we have to do the mental switch that the sun is our intent, but it made me think, I went right to science fiction and went, okay, so that means that that's like behind shape shifting, that you have all these potentials, and not just all the things that Robbie's, that's in your everyday life. I just jumped to science fiction right away. That it spoke to the shape shifting and those potentials, that in the 8th dimension, we have the potential to be all these beings. So whatever it is, we can choose by our intent to express it in this dimension, because when she rotated that crystal, there were totally different shapes. And that's, oh, look who's on camera now. We got another Rosie. So that was just an exciting and fun thing to me, that it said, oh, well, this sort of explains that. And it also explains all of those potentialities that, like Rosie was talking about, that you can bring into existence. Today, am I this person? Tomorrow, I'm going to be this person. A little later today, I'm going to be this type of personality. And it's that intent and those qualities that you are bringing through of your true self in the 8th dimension. Who are you? What are you going to focus on manifesting in this dimension now? So both ways, sci-fi and yeah. So anyway.
Very good. Just so that if
yeah, it's all your potentials. The crystal, it's the quantum field of potential. So it's all those potentials that you can be, and which is the blackness. It's like, what do you want to bring out of the blackness? Anything?
Right, exactly. Right. Okay, go ahead. Geraldine, you had something you wanted to say. Go ahead. Oop, we got to unmute you first.
Yep, there we go. Directly from the book. So it's just celebrating what people have said so far, in that what Thoth has here is that it's information and wisdom that really is what life is all about. And then also on page 79, there's also a sharing that really everyone sees differently. So it says, all eyes do not see the same vision. For to one, an object appears one form and color, and to a different eye of another. So also the infinite fire, changing from color to color, is never the same from day to day. So when I read that, and there's so much, that's why the book is so good to have and bring inside yourself, and like any one paragraph to sit with. But we've heard the different perspectives from everyday immediate outcomes to the sci-fi, knowing that there's different visions, and also, as Nikki just shared, even the shape shifting. That's really here, that perspectives are forever changing. So what is constant? And we're being shown through the book that what is constant is that co-creation. And as was just shared there, I really like that too, that to have the shadow, to have the outcome in this dimension, we need the crystal plus the source of light, which is coming through it to make this next form, this projection. So we really can feel then that at any time, what am I capable of? I'm capable of whatever the sun is capable of. And that beautiful prayer that's been given, that recognizes the sun as the creator of all things, and may it illuminate my heart so that I may too do your work. That is, again, in the book. And I used to, as a scientist, I used to say, well, that's not true. The sun isn't the basis of all light, because some things don't photosynthesize, some things use other energy. And then there was a moment of acknowledging again what's so clear in this book and with the modern physics that's looking at gravity, looking at Nassim Haramein's work, looking at black holes, and as we're talking about going to the void, really being where it all begins. So if I look at the sun and I say, you who are the creator of all life, I'm looking into a black hole. So again, it takes us to the greatest that not only we be by ourselves, it's a full recognition of this. In physics, they call it entanglement, but it's not negative about being tangled. It's we are completely with the source that is creating the projection. We are completely influencing that crystal, which then creates the projection. So it's time, and as the book says, all over and over, it's the man who supports himself, knowing that wisdom and knowledge are the key, are the ones who will be illuminated. So knowing this, and as it's been shared with us, it can be the knowing and sitting with it. It's not like my science brain that tried to make the sun photosynthesis. It's sit with it. The creation is because there's a black hole. So I really suggest as well going back and really seeing that in this, Thoth is also asking us that the empowering of humans is to speak up when there's injustice and wrongdoings, racism, unfair treatment, any other evil thing that's happening around us. And there's that idea of the law of karmic energy. So in this part of what we're looking at, what's our role in changing our crystal? Because as GMP said, as you look out there, you are creating. So if there's what we might call opposite to where we sit, what might be called evil, how are we? And then that creates out there. So I just wanted to share that the book is really saying knowledge and wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you. Just so that everybody remembers, if you're not quite sure how you can put your hand up, you just go down and there's an icon on the bottom or at the top of your screen that says participants. If you click on that, then it will allow you to raise your hand. I think I see Deb Adler actually raising her hand on the screen, not on the way I just told you, but Deb, go ahead if you want. Can we unmute Deb Adler? Hello, hello. Deb? Okay, so just a thought that I had while we're waiting for Deb to get her video, her audio together, was that when she took that crystal and turned it around, the projection that we were seeing of the on the two-dimensional ground of the three-dimensional crystal, and it changed as Robbie and Nikisi Way were saying, as she moved it around, things changed. But what hit me one day was I realized it's the crystal never changes. The crystal itself, the original crystal, always stayed the same. What changed was the projection onto the lower dimension. So what you're seeing and you're talking about as projecting into your lives right now, it's an aspect that you're projecting. It's not the real you, I think. And I think, Robbie, that's kind of what you were going for, was that it's not the real you. Have we got a way to get Deb Adler some audio or Robbie some audio? You want to try?
We good?
You're good, Deb. Go for it.
Okay. Getting a lot of echo here.
Give it a try.
No,
It's good. Yeah.
yeah, yes, we do too.
So when I talked about information, that the root of emergence theory is the idea that whole of reality is made up of information, and that brought me back to I shared this somewhere last week, hopefully not here, to the idea that information is distilled down to ones and zeros, and that everything interpreted is a combination of ones and zeros. And that took me back to a very old programming class that I had years ago, when we still used programming Carson, and you had to make the combinations of ones and zeros and then feed it into the computer. And further down it says that, you know, symbols and meaning have to follow words. That really, the information has to follow rules, and then it's enacted upon by a user, like you say. Well, the information combined into, say, symbols, and the symbols have meaning, and we talked about geometry. When you think about geometry, it's a combination of relationships that still is basically math, you know? So we have this basic information of ones and zeros that combines in a certain way, and then we learned that our bodies are basically computers that were given to us, constructed by the Anunnaki. So that becomes a way that we can take the information in, right? But then there's consciousness and the observer that has to interpret the information in order to come to a conclusion. So it's the chooser, and that's what the chooser is. And that's consciousness and the observer that then makes choices on that information that's coming through. That's basically what I got.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for sharing, Deb. Holly, I believe, Holly, you had something you wanted to share?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. You know, throughout all of this, and even as I've been going through being in the book club and listening to people, it's very interesting because I'm very experiential. And I do read, and I do read a lot of things. And I've worked in energy medicine for a really long 25 years. And for me, it has been such an experiential process that as I'm reading this, what I have felt from this and experienced from this is that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And I have no doubt about that. So reading this and deciphering what it's saying and watching many of the films and videos that are given for us to watch, I'm learning more of the scientific aspect of it, and because I already have the experiential. And it's very interesting as I'm looking at how our lives get created, and especially right now, because even as a child was out of the third dimension a lot of the time, and into other dimensions that I had no way of giving words to, even mostly just experiences and feelings. And so in being involved with this now for a month or so, I've been asking for the dreams to show me these higher dimensions so that I can discern what does this really mean, because as we're looking at, they're showing the crystal with the shadow. A lot of times I think there's things that we see when you look into the sky, even, that you don't know what it is, that you can't comprehend what it is that you're actually seeing until you acknowledge to that cloud or that space, I see you. And as soon as I have the experience of I see you and interrelatedness with that energy, it takes on a completely different form. And I think that our eyes and ears and our touch and our senses have to develop into something much greater than what they have been as a human has experienced, because we're seeing something on frequency wise that is much grander than what we have been capable of so far. And maybe this, to me, I just wanted to really kind of just say, for me, this being in this book club and being a part of looking at this information, I think it's opening up again more channels for the development of senses, my senses, and my ability to sense other dimensions even in a refined way. Just wanted to say that.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, anybody else had any specific feelings or experiences as we go through this? I know one of the things that was a kind of an eye-opener for me was that you're always in those places. I was struggling for a while to say, okay, how can I get out of my body and into this other heavy, higher dimensions? Realized, number one, I was trying too hard. But I also then, what hit me real hard was that you're already there. I'm already there. I'm always there. I just forget that I'm there, and I get caught up in the fact that I'm this. And I loved what Trina said a couple of weeks ago when we were on the call, and she said that when we were talking about the avatars and how Toth talked about changing and recycling bodies or avatars, that it made it so much easier for her to just say, okay, so this is just my avatar I've picked up this time around, and helped her stay not so hung up on this. So that's kind of what I got out of it. Brooke, tell us what you're thinking.
Okay, so something I thought of, it was just something I was thinking. I was wondering, how does everybody see the same stuff? If we can choose the different ways that the information can be. So something that I thought might be possible is that, especially when we are kids, just how our brain works, we mirror things that we see, and we mirror our environment and who we see, so mostly our parents. And if they believe that this is what it's supposed to look like, and they tell us, and if the kid thinks that this looks like something else, or has decided with their consciousness and choice that this is what I see, but their parents, who they believe is their figure and who they believe in and will mirror, they believe the parent tells them the truth, saying, no, this is what it looks like. like you hear sometimes a lot how children see many different things, possibly ghosts or other objects. So maybe it's them choosing different ways to look at the information. But then how does everybody see the same thing? Maybe because as children, the parent tells the child that, no, this is what I see. And the child just believes, okay, that's what it actually is, and I'm not seeing it right. So then they keep it in their brain, and then it just keeps going. Another reason could also be like mass consciousness, or mob consciousness, maybe something like that, that everybody, like somebody tells someone else, this is what I see, and it just keeps going. So that's maybe why everybody sees the same things. So that's what I had to share.
Excellent, excellent. As a matter of fact, I'm sure, Brooke, that you've heard of Bruce Lipton, and Bruce Lipton explains very, very much in his book, The Biology of Belief, that for the first 7 years of your life, you're like just like a memory chip on a computer. All you're doing is just accepting everything. So you don't have a whole lot of discernment generally up to a certain age. You just take it all in, and you believe it. It's all true to you. And so that's how you build, that's how we build our outlook of the world. So what you're saying is absolutely true. What we hear from our parents, what we hear from those people that we respect, like our, coaches and church leaders and teachers and all these people, all have a huge effect on how we perceive the world, because we're perceiving in a way what they are perceiving, because that's what they told us. So I think you're right on. I think you're right on. Any other comments or thoughts about this whole idea of this emergence theory? I think sounds really cool to me, especially because it's tying together things that the physicists have been trying to tie together for years. But not only that, it's making the physicists realize that consciousness is a major part of what they're trying to figure out. And they've never done that before. I loved it in the movie when the girl says that consciousness is the part of physics that the physicists know the least about, and they're scrambling to try to figure it out. So what you said earlier, Holly, I think is really true. We have this experience about things. I guess I came to it a little bit the other way around, because the first time I met grandmother 30 years ago, she told me that the sun was black, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm still trying to figure out. But little by little, all the pieces are falling into place, and somehow the experience, and I'm lucky because in a way I like the science, so I dig into it, and I see now what she was talking about. So I love this book because it's giving me some of the fill in the blank stuff that never really made sense for me before. Any other comments? Anybody else have one of those aha moments while you were reading this book?
This is Geraldine again. Just a quick add-on to Brooks, because I think it is very important, and it does allow our minds to have many questions of, okay, am I seeing the same as someone else? And also, how do I create a world where other people can see a world as I'm seeing it? If you want to see the beauty way and you're hoping others feel inspired to see that. There was a story about when one of the Spanish armadas came in to the coast of South America, and apparently the traditional people there hadn't seen a ship before, but they were very cued into the water and seeing the ocean. They could see ripples on the ocean that weren't quite what one would expect from wind or wave. They knew something was there. It was one of the shamans who for whatever reason really looked with a total open possibility of seeing whatever is there, was able to see the ship, then was able to explain the ship to the other people there, who were then able to see it. And I know we mentioned Bruce Lipton, but also Dr. Joe Dispenza's distilled a lot of information from others as well, in terms of the ability of the brain to take in 400 billion bits of information per second, but we're only being conscious of about 10,000 of those. So, and that's mostly about our body. So it gives us this wonderful aha moment that's also echoed in the book, that says we are SIM cards and all that DNA that we've got, and we're only using such a small part of it. So putting that together with what you asked, Brooke, about You know, are we all seeing different things, and how is it that we see something the same? Is there a collective agreement? Is there a downward causation of a group? Is there a stronger person with a stronger vision and other people agree with it? I'm not answering that per se, but I'm definitely saying that even in the book, there's the acknowledgement that your conscious wave, your consciousness, the wave function, so your thoughts are like a wave, so they're an energy, collapse the electromagnetic energy into bits of information that we call matter. So it's recognizing, again in the book, it's recognizing in quantum physics the process of downward causation. It's recognizing, even without knowing the physics, that you can think of something and you're more likely to create it. How does that work in a group situation? What we see, how do others see the same? I feel it's like that story from the Spanish Armada. If someone or one of us looks to really see, knowing that it could be something that we have nothing in our neurons already for, but be open to see. And it's the teaching from the elders all the time. Step into the void, just be open. And I appreciate the sharing as well that says, go to the dreams and ask the dreams to show more. Because if we're just going to add on to what we know, we'll make up an answer to what we know. But like the shaman who stood and allowed themselves to see the ship, as we see it, it makes it easier for everyone else to see it. And as we surround ourselves by those who are already the next steps ahead in seeing, it makes it easier for us to see. So at any time we're a teacher and a student, and the sharing, and again, it's really working in with this chapter because it says so much that wisdom is power and power is wisdom, one with each other, perfecting the whole. And the one with each other is not just the power and the wisdom, it's all of us. It's all of us with the creator. It's all of us with the perspective creating the whole. And that's it from me.
That's great. It's so funny because I was actually thinking of that same story as you started to talk. So you must be sending out very strong wavelengths, brain waves out my way. Claire, I think I saw you put your hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Ah, good. Hi. Listening to everything you say, it made me realize when I was looking at the video, when he talks about the quasi crystal, which is in the third dimension, but it comes from the 8th dimension. Okay, so we heard all that. I'm thinking the quasi crystal is us because it's forming different patterns, varied patterns, but still forming a whole, right? So that whole is us, is humanity, diverse shapes and everything, like the quasi crystal, but making a whole. And she was saying that everything is an information. So I am an information too. Everybody is. So that make me understand how connected we are. We just have to be aware of the information that is being broadcasted. Being a whole, being informations, it's all the same, so we're all in it. We just need to be aware of it. And that made me understand how we can live in different frequencies or densities or dimensions. This is the same thing from the 8th dimension to the 3rd one. We're all living in this. But since we're all information, doesn't matter. It's just a question of being aware of how you feel. And what's out there, like she said, the medicine man was able to see the boat, but not the others because they were not aware. So I understand when grandmother says the most important thing is to be aware and conscious. So I'm working on that a lot. But I liked the idea of the quasi crystal because it's on the third dimension, it's not perfect. It's different shapes, different patterns, but it still forms a whole. It made me think of humanity the way it is. So do we have to realize that this is what it is? And that we are really one? That's the question. That's it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. How about the whole aspect of the emergence theory that says that every time has an effect on every time. That the past affects what happens today. The past affects what happens in the future. The future affects what's happened today. The future affects what happens in the past. It's all affects everything. Everything affects everything. How do you process that? How have people process that? How do you wrap your brain around that one, or do you even try? Any thoughts on that? Go ahead, Holly. Can we unmute Holly?
No, can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
My experience of that, for me, in a very simplistic way, is much like when we maybe have all done some healing work with our child within, and our who we are now goes back and comforts that child, and loves that child, surrounds that child with love energy, and all the people that are involved with whatever the situation was with love energy. But then when you do that exercise, you get the very intense experience sometimes of that your future self is actually right here, right now, holding you as you're holding that child you were. And in that moment, it's like you have all become one, past, future, and present. And it gives great confidence in no matter where you are in life, you know you, and that future you knows you. And now it just takes me having trust in the present moment, what I consider the present moment, of allowing that wisdom of something that's had more experience than what it appears to be that I'm having in this avatar to be present with me. To me, that combines past, present, and future into the right now. My future is with me, my past is with me, and I am that full expression in that present moment, which is the combination of them all.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank you. I think Marianne Love had something you wanted to add.
Sure. Yeah, I think you must have read my mind, Mike, and also you, Holly, because both of the things you said was actually what I was going to bring up because I was really relating to where they spoke about in the emergence theory that time is actually happening all at once. And there was many years ago in my early 20s when all of this sort of spiritual world started opening up for me, I got a very, very strong experience of my future self had come to visit me. And I knew when I met her that she was she'd incorporated many of these teachings, is all I can say. She was a really loving, beautiful soul. And I often, even today, use that experience to just check how I'm going along the path to my own evolution. Am I getting closer to her? Sometimes I wonder, am I there yet, or am I looking like her yet? You know, her hair was short. Is my hair short? I sort of sometimes go to that place of, at what point will I catch up with her? But just hearing that this is in this theory, that is a reality, that actually what I do now affects me in my past, and what I do now affects me in my future, and what my future is doing now is already feeding back to my original experience in my upbringing. So everything is up for change and growth. And I know as a therapist, I'm constantly working with people to go on the timeline and do that repair work. And then when that happens, like what you're talking about, Holly, when the inner child has the experience of meeting the adult that's grown up and it's turned out okay, and realizes that they're now safe and that they're loved and it's all fine and the situation's different now, when you've merged those two consciousnesses of the inner child and that grown-up adult, that everything changes. It's that inner child is suddenly, it's resolved. You don't have to harp on about a history. It's no longer a present experience or reality for any of them anymore. And it's just realizing if all time's happening right this second, then we're already wealthy. We're already everything we might dream we want to be, because it's happening right here. The only difference now is opening up to the experience of it and putting the practicality in this moment so that it draws closer, that it is here in our awareness, that because all of it's happening at once. And yeah, I just feel like it's a powerful thing to relate to, that all time is present. All time is happening now.
Absolutely. Thank you. You might want to consider, Marianne, that you are already perfect. You are already that person.
No, thanks, Mike. So are you.
Well, you are. You are that person. You are. All time is now. So you are that person. Physics will explain it to you.
Yeah.
Margaret Calahoo, you had something you wanted to say, I think? I just see the top of your head, though.
Yeah. Okay. Here, let me go. I had
There
to plug
you
in
go.
my phone. I had to plug in my phone, so I had to get closer to the edge here. I heard a lot of great things about past, present, future. Mike, you said something, and now since I listened to so many other people, I forgot what it was, but it was important at the time, and I was going to comment. Brooke, you had some wonderful things to say. I do believe that we are living the past, present, and future all in the here and now, and changing it as doing numerology myself and utilizing the book that you're teaching, Mike, and being a tarot card reader. When I go in and I lay out cards, it's only a doorway, and I walk through that doorway. And everybody wants to know, what's my future? Well, you know what? It's here. It's right now. What you create today, and I tell them this, what you create today is going to dictate what your future is going to be. And because I go to the past, which they already did, so that's an easy read. Present is where they're at. That's pretty okay, you know, for reading. But when you get into the future, like I said, it is in the here and now. There's always like, I see energies, different lines of energies. And there's always one that's more solid, because we as human beings, like, we're hell-bent on staying where we're at. So the energy path that I can follow is the one, and I would say this is the one that you're most likely to take, because it's the one you're used to taking. However, you're going to be presenting all these choices, but they're being presented in the here and now. Choose them. You will be able to dictate your own outcome. Okay, so I mean, the here and now is really very important. People seeing things differently. I asked grandmother, because you know, we all know she has full sight. She wanted children that had full sight so she could share experience of seeing. And I remember her relating and sharing many years ago. I was in my 20s. We were tykes at the time. And she goes, but what she didn't realize until they were born, that yes, they have full sight, they can see the same things, but their interpretations of it was different. And how they associated with it was different. But, you know, for me, the older I get, the more I look for the likenesses as opposed to the differences, if that makes sense. And it seems to work a lot. Crystals are something that are very fond of. And I'm learning how connected we really are, because I'm talking to my animals in the backyard. I mean, when you're on quarantine, you know, Mike came home from work because he's an essential. And he said, how was your day? And I said, well, the squirrel was screaming and crying and throwing a tantrum. And he was. He had his arms up like this, looking at me crazy. because the blue jay came in and took the nuts that I laid out for the, you know, for him. So I said, I get it. Okay. So I'm talking to the blue jay. My neighbors probably think, hey, you know, whatever. And the squirrel, but I realized how connected we really are because there was true live communication going on there. And not only are we communicating, you know, we're just a whole. And on that note, I just realized just how connected we are. Like, I know a lot of times I don't know what everyone in my circle's studying, but I'll be damned if I don't go out and buy that book. And then I come to find out, oh, by the way, Gallagher, do you want to come join all of us? We have this book that I bought 3 days ago. You all have the book 5 days ago. I tuned into it. I bought the book, you know, and I'm here. So there's a lot to be said. Eighth dimensions to me are just really easy for me to walk in and out of. So they're here with us. That's what I'd like that you said, that we are living them at all times, Mike. And I do appreciate that. It makes me feel a little saner. Thank you.
Either that or we're both in it together.
That's all right. I'm with good company.
Mary, you had something you wanted to add?
Yes, I do. There's an interesting thing about information. And that interesting thing is that it's just like time. All information is available at all time. So information extends beyond time and beyond space, and it's here right now. So an interesting thing about that broadcasting from 3D to 2D, and we see that pattern of information on the ground, it's like a filter of information. So what it reminds me of is when we read Michio Kaku's Future of Your Mind, and it talks about what we see. So Brooke and Claire and everyone, when we're talking about seeing information, the really interesting thing about information is that we see nothing at all. We actually do not see. The optic nerve does not give us a picture, not like that. Those little black holes that we have inside our eyes, they are holes and they are empty. What actually happens is that we have these little sensors, like on the corner of our eyes, that act as speakers. And when the vibration, the frequency comes in, the pickers go into our occiput and take a look at all the information we've stored in our brain. That takes a look at the emotion, whatever we have a great amount of emotion over first, and it takes a look at all the memories. And it takes that information, and lo and behold, it broadcasts and puts it on like a frame. So what you're seeing right now is information that you yourself have gathered. When you're looking at me, you all see somebody different, something different. We're all processing information with our memory, with our senses, with our emotions, and with whatever information we've already gathered. And then we're putting out onto the screen of our lens, we're broadcasting a picture, like a movie picture. So when we talk about time and all time being accessible and time affecting, you know, at age 5, we're having an effect on age 20, on age 80, on age 10. It's because all that information is oscillating information at the very smallest, tiniest part of us, inside each one of us, and it's up to us how we filter all that information, and we decide to build a movie on it. So I find it really interesting that we actually see something different from everyone else, and yet we're able to communicate.
Right. Thanks, Mary. And that reminds me, I don't know if it was Dr. Joe or Bruce Lipton, but in one of their videos, they really give a good explanation of how our brain actually fills in most of the information that we think is like physical, real, out there, honest, hard, whatever. And our brain is really filling half of it in. So what you're saying is exactly right on and 100%. And it makes me think back to those explanation of how what we each see is not necessarily the same thing, and goes back to sort of what Brooke opened up about, that we're seeing the same thing, but we're not quite seeing the same thing because we're conditioned the same way, but our brains are filling it in a little differently. So it's very, very interesting. And now take that into time. It all exists. I see it like this huge, I don't know what, huge something, and everything that's ever happened, anytime, past, present, and future, all exists somewhere there. And if you want to see it, you just go there. If you want to experience it, it all exists all the time. And sort of, it's an interesting way of looking at things. Geraldine, I think you had another comment you wanted to make? Or am I wrong?
Yep, you're right. Yes, and it was triggered too with that idea that all our past, present, future self is all present, and a little. I'll give a 30-second version. Is during a big decision thing, I had some emotion. I talked it into my phone. I recorded it with my phone because I thought I'll take out the emotion and listen back to the recording. And then I started crying at the end. That was really nice. And I went to turn the phone off, but I kept recording. Then when I listened back to get the factual stuff out of this recording, I went to stop it when the crying started, and something said, no, keep that, just listen to it. And it was an amazing experience, actually holding my phone and holding myself at the same time, and rocking my phone and saying, the phone really holding the sound of myself crying and saying, it's okay. It's all okay now. That little moment, we have these tiny moments. That little moment for me was one of those, it was so powerful. And it changed some things for me. The other thing it reminds me of, again, when we go back to the book, is not only is all of us, whatever we're calling us, particular frequency, unique emanation present, but as it says, mighty and strange, they veiled with their power, silent, all-knowing, drawing the life force, different yet one with the children of men, I different and yet one with the children of light, custodians and watchers of force of man's bondage, ready to loose when the light has been reached. So not only are we our own guardians and confidants through time, but acknowledging so many standing with us, so many. And it really, the key thing in this book is, whether it's those who are lying in the halls of Amenti, whether it's the Atlanteans, whether it's the old ones here with the wisdom, when those words are spoken, you are not alone. You're not alone because your own self is all here, but you're not alone, like really not alone. So I'd like to appreciate, again, back to the book, when we're saying we can be there for ourselves, also to say, Wado, and appreciation, and yes, I'm listening to all the many who are custodians and watching for each one of us to reach the light.
Cool, very good, thanks. Kay, you had something you wanted to add?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I've never talked in one of these, so this is new for me. So mine will be fast. So mine is about all time is now. The future creates the now, with everything's looping around. And I see glimpses of myself in the future, and I focus on my divine vision, and it's a divine vision that unfolds. So I don't know how it's going to look. I just see glimpses. But with all time being now, I know that the path to reach those glimpses that I see, it's already there. It just has to unfold. I have to be open to it unfolding. I just need to allow it to unfold. So mine is more experiential, practical application to today versus theory.
But doesn't that make you think of all these people who tell you if you want something, visualize the endpoint? Don't get caught up in the how. They tell you visualize the endpoint. Isn't that what you're saying?
No, it's a little bit different because I can do that. I learned that one
Wait,
35 years ago. Okay. Focus on the end result, and I could will things into existence. I also learned from there that if you didn't have the healing work done, things could undo. It could also be something you really don't want, etc. Then the next one I learned about healing, I'm an energy worker, is you do the healing, so that's manifesting from the heart where it's allowance. So as you keep things focused, you do the healing work, things just show up. But that's still looking at something that's more solid of an end result. This is different. I don't know what the divine vision looks like. What I know is I see glimpses of it. So as I was looping around, I'm going, okay, it exists, it exists, it exists. And it's about the how to get there is where I'm, stuck. So, but I saw that all time is now. The future is creating the present. Therefore, I know it's out there. Those glimpses are real. Even though I have no clue on the how, I know that the glimpses are futures creating the present, that there is a path, and I just need to let the path unfold and trust a lot more.
cool, very good.
So it's another aspect. I wish it was the one on the end, but I can't see it. But that would actually be easier.
But your glimpses have to be giving you like signposts.
Not much information, not enough information to put a definition around it for manifestation.
But what's the
For me,
what's the feeling? Is the feeling that you're going in that direction?
the feeling is that it's part of my divine mission purpose for being here. And that's what I've committed to do. And here's this divine out here I am and coming here, but I'm not seeing the path. So it's a very different way than anything I've done before. And I just keep being told to heal. So it was interesting because I went through some of my notes, and there was one with some quotes grandmother had said. It was about just, focusing on it and committing to it, and then just do the healing work, do your inside work, keep doing the healing work on yourself. And that's what I have been told. Just keep doing the healing work. So I'm getting a little impatient, and it's like, keep doing the healing work, keep doing the healing work. I just finished an 8-day, 3.5-hour online Jinshin Jitsu self-help training. So it's like, keep doing the healing work, keep doing the healing work. And things just kept showing up. Just keep doing the healing work. So it's good. So this is very different. It's not, here's an end result, go manifest. That would feel a lot more comfortable. This is a focus of something I can't define. It'll come about. But I saw this, and this was encouraging. So I know if that future is all creating the now, then there is the path. And I need to let the path unfold and just trust it. Be in the now, let the path unfold. Be in service to spirit. Divine. Focus on living my divine mission, purpose, why I'm on here, the planet at this time, on the planet for this lifetime.
Cool, very cool.
Okay, that's all I have to say about that.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Margaret, Calahoo. Can we get Calahoo? Hang on a sec before you're unmuted. Now
I'm unmuted. Okay, thanks, you guys. Manifesting realities and things like that, if everything's in the here and now. I have a story to share. And when Ho Chi Minh was little, Anastasia, for those of you who don't know her, she chose to come through my body for her life experience, otherwise known as daughter, and that's for the new people because I know you all know her. At 4, she had watched on TV closing a group of children singing, and we all know she sings. She goes, "Mama, who are they?" I said, "They're the singing angels." She goes, oh, where are they from? I said, Cleveland. She goes, we live in Cleveland. I said, yeah. She goes, how? I could just see her wheels turning. How old do you have to be? I said, I think 10. She goes, you know what, Mama? When I'm 10, I'm going to be one of them. And you want to be encouraging. And I said, oh, that's a beautiful goal. You know, same year she's 4, sees the Pope. She goes, and you know what else? I'm going to go sing for the Pope. I said, you do know the Pope's in Italy. She goes, then I'll go to Italy. And I said, okay. I said, that's a beautiful thing. 2 months, 1 day after her 10th birthday, she became a singing angel. Her last trip with the singing angels, she won the trip to Italy to go sing for the Pope. Okay? And, you know, and she was like that as long as I can remember, you know. When I picked her up from the airport at 17 and I said, okay, now you've fulfilled everything that I know that you wanted to manifest. What else are you manifesting? But it was a beautiful thing to unfold on how well it really does work and the process works. And how children just know this. They don't question. They're not afraid. They really don't care what you think, you know, because she knew that's what she's going to be at 10, and she's going to sing for the Pope. But I did say, why did you want to go sing for the Pope? And she goes, I liked his hat. I said, okay. I said, she goes, really? She goes, I liked his hat. And I said, well, it got you there, you know. But it is, children are, a lot of times I feel, I mean, I'm with a grandson a lot of times, and I just feel like a lot of times he's so much more advanced than I am, you know, because children don't question. They just go with the flow, and they know the answers to where they want to go. And because of our path, we don't discourage it. So we get the opportunity to watch it unfold. And I've always been real appreciative of watching like Dina, like Brooke and Geraldine, her children, how advanced they are and just how wonderful individual and people that they are. And I learn a lot from them because they just are great people. Yeah. So on that note, but it was about their power of manifestation. And I really appreciate them, Wado.
Okay, we're almost getting to closing time, but I know, Holly, you had something you'd like to share. Go ahead. As soon as we unmute you. Can we unmute Holly? Hello? Yeah, oh. There you go. You're unmuted.
Okay,
Holly.
okay, here we go. So on page 76 of our book, where it says "In Thoughts Said," this to me kind of sums up what we've been talking about this whole time, really, in this particular day. Follow thine heart during thy lifetime. Do thou more than is commanded of thee. When thou hast gained riches, follow thou thine heart. For all those that are of no avail, if thine heart be weary. Diminish thou not the time of following thine heart. It is abhorred by the soul. So to me, it's like, that's what we're talking about. You know, it's like, how do we know where we're going? How do we know what we're doing? How do we know if all of our past, present, and future are right here? I think it really, because just feel it in the heart. Follow your heart, feel it in the heart. It's exactly what the children do. They feel something in the heart, they know it in the heart, and that is actually the truth that pours forth. That's it.
Thank you for sharing. Listen, I want to thank everybody. I think we had fun. It was interesting. I think a lot of different perspectives, and I appreciate you all for sharing, coming forward, taking the time, and opening up. Next week, grandmother should be back, and we'll all have a chance to share again. So have a wonderful week. Everybody stay safe, stay happy, create the world you want. Love you all. Take care.